let's get to the rest of these Week 6 games. Before we get to the headliner house, and I know we're going to. Raheem, I got to hit you on this. I went through, my early prep work for the week. Got off the golf course, eating a little lunch, going through the games, trying to see, I like this, I like that, do I like this, do I like that? Is it me, or is this week full of landmines? I find this week to be very, very tricky. I don't know if it's me trying to get a sense on some of these 2-3, 3-2 teams. If it's me just like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's all the baseball that's going on. Has this been one of the more complicated weeks going into the early season prep that you found?
I think the NFL is tough every week, but I definitely think this week is tough because when you look at a lot of these games, what we thought these teams were at the start of the year doesn't match what they are now for many of them. And you look at a team like the Washington Commanders taking on the Baltimore Ravens, we've had to make a large adjustment to the Commanders. So a lot of times you're asking yourself, is the adjustment too big? Is it too small? What are these teams now? And I don't know if we have a great idea of what all of these teams are. I don't think there's any great teams in the NFL this year. And when you don't have great teams, you have more parity. And with more parity, there's more uncertainty. So I think that's what makes it tough.
House, are you having that trouble as you're starting to look at these games this week?
Yes, because this is a slate with a ton of home dogs, which is always like, oh, great, look at the opportunity here. But to Dream's point, the parity of it makes it super hard. Like, what do you do? The Raiders are home dogs by 3 points to Pittsburgh. Well, we talked about this on the show. The Raiders, who wants to bet on the Raiders? And then you have 5 games that fall into the absolute worst kind of Bermuda Triangle danger zone, which is, the anything where a favorite's, 5.5 or more. We have 5 of those games, including the Eagles laying 8.5 to the Browns that are dead men walking. And I don't, look at the Patriots getting 7 at home against the Texans, and the Panthers getting 6.5 at home from the Falcons. I don't know, man. This is let's be careful out there week. Another one of those.
Yeah. Landmines galore. Okay. House, your team. The feel-good story right now in the NFL. They smoked Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns, even though we kind of thought that might be a trap game, rat line, whatever you want to call it. You might have thought that was the case. It wasn't, because Deshaun Watson's the quarterback of the Browns, and your team at the moment is firing on all cylinders. Baltimore's interesting. I would not be surprised, House, in this game, as they're laying 6.5 if they won by 17-plus points. I've seen the Ravens go down that road. I also wouldn't be surprised if this is a game the Ravens are up, they're fooling around, and Jaden Daniels steals it from them in the fourth quarter, and we're talking about what happened with Baltimore. Baltimore's defense, we saw what Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were able to do last week. So I have to ask the resident Beltway man, where do we stand on Ravens Commanders? Ravens favored by 6.5.
Well, I'll start off with my regret that I can't join the good folks at Jimmy's Famous Seafood for their goat tailgate. That's a Ravens tailgate, but I would have jumped across because those crab cakes are absolutely magnificent. I would have repped for the C words. This game is fascinating. I can't wait to see it. I'm wondering why it would be less total-wise than what we just witnessed with that Ravens-Bengals thing, because I think we have the same kind of explosive teams, and Ravens games are averaging 57 total points. Washington games are averaging 54 total points. The total right now is 51.5. I don't really want to mess around with sides or money line, but I'm kind of fine with playing the over here, Dream.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like, I think when you look at these two teams, the Commanders are scoring on 40% of their drives. First in the NFL, 31 points per game. First, you look at the Ravens, they're scoring on 34% of their drives. Third in the NFL, 29 points per game. So you got 2 elite offenses here, and you got 2 bad defenses. So that tends to be a recipe for an over. And when you look at the Ravens, last week they gave up almost 500 yards of offense to Joe Burrow. And based on the way Jaden Daniels is, you have to consider him to be the elite quarterback. And I know that there's a lot of sharps out there who are going to say, oh, he can't keep this going. He can't keep this going. Well, right now he's going. And I'm not going to try to catch a falling knife by trying to fade him in this Washington Commanders offense, especially against this Ravens defense, which is 25th in dropback EPA per play and 22nd in dropback success rate. So I look at this game as a game that's going to be high scoring, but I also think there's a rivalry aspect to this. We all know the DMV area. We all know Washington and Baltimore. Those guys are going to be in the club. They're going to be bragging to each other about, who won this summer. So I think the Commanders can actually keep this game close. And I think the Commanders are kind of being a little bit undervalued because no one expected them to be where they are. Now, I know people are going to look at the look-ahead line and say the Ravens were 8.5 this summer, but I don't think they've made enough of an adjustment. I think at 6.5, you're probably getting a bargain on the Commanders, especially considering last week, the Ravens, they were in a dogfight to win that game. They were down 10 multiple times in the fourth quarter, had to go to overtime. Now you got to come back home and take on the Commanders. I think the Commanders are live.
I get it. My gut feel is the Ravens win this game by double digits, but I'm done betting against the commies. I said it last week. All of my instincts pointed me to Cleveland. I said, I can't do it. I can't do it, mainly due to the fact that it was Deshaun Watson on the other side. I said, I'm not investing my hard-earned American dollars in Deshaun Watson for the foreseeable future. And this also kind of reeks of either Ravens or pass, and I'm probably going to pass. Now, this game I'm not passing on, guys. House, I love Green Bay laying 5.5 against Arizona this week. I think Arizona, after the emotional win they had last week, right, against the San Francisco 49ers, to now take them and put them on the road, put Kyler Murray at Lambeau Field. The Packers, it's another week where Jordan Love is getting that much more comfortable. Packers been a really good home team. This is the first time I think I'm fading the Cardinals all year. I've been with them, I feel like, game after game after game. They got very fortunate to win last week against San Francisco. I don't like them here at all. I'm all over Green Bay laying 5.5.
Yeah, I think you're on the sharp side here, JJ, and there's lots of evidence out there that shows the inconsistency of Kyler Murray as a quarterback of a team coming off of a win, coming off of a kind of comeback win like that. And, Green Bay, its defense is near the bottom of the league in a whole bunch of different metrics. In fact, that is why I really liked the LA Rams last week. And the LA Rams, on a success rate basis, far outpaced the Green Bay Packers. But I don't know that this Cardinals team is built to expose the weaknesses in the Green Bay offense. And so I part of the thing that Green Bay has done defensively is turn teams over. I think they're going to be able to do that against the Cardinals. We are going to see Kyler Murray for the first time at Lambeau, but Kyler on grass surface, it's a bad number for him. So I'm on the Packers with you for this one. What do you think, Dream?
All right, this is a tough game for me because when I look at the Packers, obviously they're much better offensively with Jordan Love than Malik Willis, but the defense still leaves a lot to be desired. Now, Jair Alexander, he missed last week. I want to see if he's playing because they're going to need him for Marvin Harrison. And when you look at the fact that the Cardinals, Kyler Murray is actually good as an underdog. 2-1 against the spread as a dog this season, 27-15, 64% as an underdog throughout his career. And, 5 is always such a weird number for me. It's right in that dead zone. And I kind of don't really know what to do with this one. So I'm going to stay away from this one, but I would lean towards the Packers.
And I think this will be one of the more entertaining games. And Podfather, if you're listening, I like Arizona Green Bay as a part of the 4-box this week. Washington's a given. But that Arizona Green Bay game, it's juicy. Now, Raheem, your Cowboys. Last week, they pulled one out of the fire. It was ugly. It came down to the wire, but Dakota did what he needed to do on 4th down and a much-needed road win for your team. Now we get a rematch of a Monday night game, or actually it was a Saturday night game, with Detroit. Feels like they got jobbed. We know what happened, the officiating, the whole storyline there. Detroit kind of used it as a rallying cry in the postseason. Well, the spread is much different this time around for Detroit and Dallas from what it was a year ago. We have the Lions as 3-point favorites. The last time we saw the Lions, they whooped the rear ends of the Seattle Seahawks. Now they're laying 3 against the Cowboys. Is this a rat?
I kind of lean with it being a rat because this line doesn't make any sense to me.
Makes no sense, Raheem. Makes no sense. How's Detroit not favored by 5.5 points in this game? Honestly.
That's funny.
I was going to go the opposite.
Yeah.
I was going to go the other way. Like
with Dallas?
Yeah.
Look, JJ, understand.
Yes.
These teams played on December 30th last year.
Oh, I know Dallas was a huge favorite.
The Cowboys were laying 5.
I know.
The look-ahead line on this before the season was Cowboys -1. So how do you get to Cowboys plus 3.5 at home? And this has already been bet down to 3. How do you get there? This line
I think it's the market house being out on the Cowboys. I get what you guys are saying. I totally do. From a look-ahead standpoint, from last year's standpoint, I think it's the books have now adjusted house on Dallas and the injuries and the talent that's not as good as it was a year ago.
Baltimore was laying 1 to this team on the road.
That's it.
So how could the Lions be laying 3? And we know the Lions don't have a good defense. So, look, you can make an adjustment for Micah Parsons. You can make an adjustment for DeMarcus Lawrence. But you're getting Deron Bland back in the secondary. And it's tough for me to get to this number. At the same time, I do not want to bet the Cowboys in this spot. 24th in EPA per play on defense, 23rd in DVOA on defense. And we know that Lions offensive line, they're going to get a ton of push here without DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. They're going to be able to run all over this Cowboys team. They're going to be able to pass all over this Cowboys team. If you ask me, I think you need to be playing Lions team total over or just the over in the game. Maybe play Jared Goff over 240 passing yards. Jared Goff over 1.5 touchdowns. You want to play some Jahmyr Gibbs props. Amon St. Brown, because I don't see the reason why you should be laying 3.5 on the road with the Lions. I would rather play the props that correlate with that happening.
I understand that. How's this game to me, though? Like, Detroit seems like such an obvious no-brainer play. That's why I think it's a rat here, House. I'm staying away from it. I am not betting Detroit in this game.
I think you're right. It is a rat. And I also am not going to bet Detroit in this game. The only thing that I regret is the fact that the Steelers, the way that Dallas treated the Steelers coming off of it from a Sunday night, I don't know if that's not really a rest disadvantage except for the physicality component, but Detroit has extra time coming off the bye. And that offensive line, the Detroit offensive line, is an entirely different animal from the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. And the ability of Detroit to establish the run, a whole different universe from what we saw with the Pittsburgh bums. So I'm wondering if there might be a knock-on effect to how physical that Pittsburgh-Dallas game was. Because, I mean, I still am just kind of taken aback by the kicking that Dallas applied. They were that defense, even with names that you have to ask their parents who these young fellas are. They just beat the hell out of that Pittsburgh offensive line. They put pressure on Fields all game long, so much so that there's like quiet rumors. Is Russell Wilson ready to come? I'm hearing that out of the Pittsburgh people. But look, I don't want to do anything with the spread in this game, but I do like the idea of a bunch of Detroit props, and I'm going to do like David Montgomery rushing and receiving. That's the guy I think that they use to get the ball rolling downhill, and then Jahmyr Gibbs for the explosive. So I'm with you guys on getting in on some of the Detroit props.